Okay, good. We are live now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining today's webinar on CIPC's annual returns. My name is Shani Kelly, and I am from the Corporate Education Unit, and I will be your facilitator for today's program. As per our invite, all companies and closed corporations are required to file and pay annual returns on an annual basis. Today's webinar will focus on the importance of annual returns compliance and how to comply via the CIPC's electronic platform Biz Portal. Our presenter is Advocate Krista Cloco. She is CIPC's Senior Manager of the Companies and Closed Corporation Unit. After Krista's presentation, we will be having a question and answer sessions. We will respond to questions related to today's topic, which are posted under comments. For questions that are not related to today's topic, please log an inquiry on the CIPC website inquiry system, QRS. The recordings of this webinar will remain on Facebook and YouTube should you wish to view it again. Before we start, I would like to remind our audience of the CIPC's Learn IBIS short course for SMMEs, company directors. Should you want details regarding the course, please email us at elearning@cipc.co.za. I now hand you over to Krista Cloco to do her presentation. Good morning, Krista.
Good morning, Shani. Thank you very much for that introduction. Much appreciated. And welcome to all our CIPC customers that are showing interest in this topic today. Before we start, I just want to indicate that this presentation uses very simplistic or common language. It does not refer to the legal definitions or legal descriptions. Sometimes it becomes very confusing when those are used. So this document and this webinar should not be used and referred that it is how the law and the legalities behind it are structured. This is basically just for the general business owner out there on how to comply as easily as possible. All right, so the first question is, what is annual returns? Now, think about annual returns as your business annual renewal license to do business, to be on the road. So it's a little bit of a checkpoint that you have to check in once a year, annually, and you basically file certain information relating to your company or closed corporation as per the date of filing. So we check, what is your corporate information? Is your directors up to date? Is your auditor up to date? If you have got an auditor. Is your address up to date? Financial year, your name, is all of that still in order? We need to check whether you're keeping financial records. Who's keeping your financial record? And if you're one of the bigger companies and closed corporations, then what is your financial information? You load that up via the XBRL. We check your level of compliance with the Companies Act with our compliance checklist. We're also trying to check for operational information. What's your number of employees? Are you active or dormant? What is your main business activity for the last year? And where are you conducting business? All of these above is to actually help the CIPC with its various functions and objectives. And as we go through, I'm going to allude to some of these that we are doing as the CIPC and the value of the information that you provide to us. So as stated, annual returns is an annual filing that must be filed once a year. When? For companies, it's 30 days from the date after its anniversary date and month. Closed corporations is from the first day of the anniversary month until the end of the month thereafter. you have to file your annual returns and all that information that we have indicated in the first slide, even if your company and closed corporation is dormant and not conducting business. As I stated, it's just a checkpoint to see where you are and that information is actually used. Then the question is, will I be reminded by CIPC to file annual returns? Yes, we actually do issue what we call annual return reminders to all active directors and members, not the person that submitted the application or any application to the CIPC on that company or closed corporation, at the beginning of the month that the annual return becomes due for filing. So if you don't get your reminder via email or SMS, it means that we don't have the director's correct contact details or the member's direct contact details on our records. And then that needs to be updated. So other matters to be filed. So with your annual return, you also file some other information surrounding your business. The reason why it's filed all with the annual return is to make sure that once a year you update all the information that's required annually and that you don't have little drips and drabs all over the year that you have to comply with. So we're trying to group all of it, and the law is designed that way. So with your annual return, as I stated, your financial information, your compliance checklist to check your level of compliance. The new one that has been launched from the 1st of April is what we call beneficial ownership. Who is the man or the woman that actually is behind the business? It's not necessarily a director. It can be a shareholder or another person that has got great influence over the business affairs. So beneficial ownership must also now be filed. And in future, what we're going to do with annual returns is you'll be able to update all that corporate information, your address, your financial year end, your directors, while filing your annual returns. Unfortunately, we did launch it in January, but unfortunately those systems were rolled back and we are just spanning out for the new releases over a time period. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we will be able to redeploy the annual returns that contains that service component as well. All right. Those that are regularly filing annual returns knows that there's an annual return fee that is applicable. And it's important to understand why we ask for a fee. It's, as I said, it's like a car. Your business is like a car on the road, and you pay a renewal fee and you file certain information. So CIPC, we do not get funding from the national vote. So we don't get money from Treasury. We are self-sustainable. So in order to carry out our functions and our duties and to keep the systems and the infrastructure and the offices to execute our functions, we unfortunately need to receive revenue. And that annual return is one of those areas or services for which we need to receive a fee. Then also a very important thing is that filing information goes with payment in order to complete the filing. You cannot just give a payment and then not file, or just file and not pay. So in order to complete the process legally, both of those elements must be present. All right, and then some of you may ask, penalty? Yes, if you file late, there's a penalty fee applicable. Penalty fees usually in terms of law is a general tool to ensure timeliness compliance. And therefore, when it comes to annual returns, your penalty value becomes higher as your turnover or higher than your turnover is. So your big companies can have like R1,000 penalty fee applicable per year. So that's why there's a penalty. Right. Now, now that we know what is annual returns, what it looks like, why is compliance so important with it? So, as you all maybe know by now, CIPC is the custodian of all registered corporate entities, companies, closed corporations, co-ops in South Africa. So we as the CIPC is the primary source registry for that information. Public and government uses CIPC information to make decisions. Government wants to know the size and status of the NPC sector, for example. They would like to know how many NPCs are registered, where are they registered, in what provinces, what is their main objects. we want to know, the government, for example, wants to know how many external companies are from the SADC countries are actually investing in South Africa by registering an external company. Is a specific company compliant in order to do business with? We regularly get requests, especially from foreigners, say, I want to import something from South Africa, from the South African company. Is this company legit? Where do you go check that? So a lot of that information lies with CIPC. So it's critical for the CIPC to have up-to-date information on corporate entities in South Africa. As the CIPC, we're going through an exercise to actually see what data we have and what value can be exported from those in order to improve decision making. For example, if you don't know how many active companies there are in the country in order to, for example, for government to do, for example, to put an incentive, for example, in place, it may lead to wasteful government funding if that information is incorrect on which that decision was based. So it's critical that CIPC have that information. We also share our information with other regulators and with other organizations. For example, the banks, SARS, the Central Supplier Database. We get requests on a monthly basis for triangulation with our information in order to add more value into the economy relating to corporate entities. We as the CIPC are also then, of course, also mandated to keep an up-to-date and effective register of all companies and closed corporations and cooperatives. So this also means that companies and closed corporations who is not doing business should be removed from the register because it warps the information if they, for example, is companies and CCs that are actually not doing business for a long time, but it still shows active on the registry. It diminishes the value of the information. Once you are deregistered, you can always be reinstated if you can show that there was economic value at the time of final deregistration. So this is basically our registration function, to make sure that our registry is up to date with all the information that is needed, that dormant companies are off, businesses that are doing business is on the registry. We know where the addresses are. We know who the directors are, the auditors that gives assurance to the financial information. That is our registration function. Then the other leg that we have, and please note this is a shortened version of the mandate of the CIPC, is to ensure a reputable corporate environment in South Africa by increasing compliance with the Companies Act, promoting a reputable and predictable business environment in order to promote investment. And that is basically our regulatory function that the CIPC has. Further, our information is also used or combined with other sources of information, private as well as government. For example, Windeed combines our information with that of information relating to immovable property. The banks use our information to make sure that the person that's representing him or herself as a director of the company looking for funding or credit from the bank are who they say they are. And then also SARS regarding to make sure that all the corporate taxpayers are within the net. If we all pay and comply with our taxes, I know it's a painful exercise to comply with, and it's very heart-wrenching to see your hard-earned money going to the taxman, but that taxes are used for other government services to run other services as well. So they need to know who is all in the corporate taxpayers' net. Our information is further used by criminal as well as civil investigations and criminal cases, nationally and internationally. We can even use our own data to take companies to court or directors to court for non-compliance with the Act, even for director misconduct. So the CIPC ourselves on our enforcement leg and compliance leg of our function actually also uses our own data. And all of these things are to protect the public interest. Make sure that business are run in a responsible manner. If you do business with the business, you know who they are. You can hold them accountable if something goes wrong. It gives assurance. Now the little tricky one. What's the consequences of non-compliance with annual returns? So the Act states that if you've got 2 successive annual returns outstanding, then you can be referred for deregistration. Now, this is done by our system. We refer anything between 30 to 40,000 companies and closed corporations on a monthly basis for deregistration. That sounds quite a lot, but then you also have to remember we've got a very large registry of companies and closed corporations. And we also register anything between 400,000 and 500,000 new companies every single year. So we've got a large volume of companies coming onto the registry and companies and CCs falling non-compliant. And we have to clean it out. Even while you are in the deregistration process, annual return deregistration for that, you can still file the annual returns. Now, why still is that important? So once you go into the AR deregistration process, your deregistration status is a risk indicator for others out there that this company or closed corporation may be coming to an end soon. You don't want to do business as a general business person with another business that will be deregistered, let's say in the next 6 months, because you are now going to invest financially into the service that you're going to provide. You want to get your money from your client. Now he's deregistered. You can't really enforce it because you have contracted with the company itself. Now the company does not exist. And it makes your life very difficult then to recover those service fees. So that's why this is important. That's also why the banks are, as soon as they pick up that you're on AR deregistration, they will notify their clients that please comply with annual returns. Because the banks loan millions of rands, billions actually, to businesses. And if they deregistered, the banks struggle to recover. They will have to go to court to reinstate these enterprises as well. And then in order to enforce their liabilities. Right, so therefore, and then eventually during this period of deregistration, you can still file, but eventually you're going to end up in final deregistration. And that's where your legal entity does not exist in order to do business with. So what is now the consequences of deregistration? Final deregistration in this case. So basically the company and closed corporation as a registered business, a legal entity ceases to exist. So once you, and it's very important to understand when you register your business as a registered company or closed corporation, you get this little protective shield around the people, the natural people involved with the business. So once you are finally deregistered, this protective shield actually falls away and it exposes the people within the business to personal liability. So once you are deregistered, the perpetual existence of your business stops. So if you wanted to hand over your business to your child one day, it ceases to exist. You can't hand it over to provide a legacy for your children. And of course, the limited liability for the directors and the members also drops away and they can be held personally liable. That's the next one. Directors can be held personally liable for all the debts. The banks may freeze your bank account because the person that they have that is responsible or who they borrowed money to or for whom they hold deposits or investments actually in law does not exist for them to do business with. So the banks will freeze your bank account and then you can go back. They will probably not release any funding. Well, that's what our experience is. They don't release the funding once you're on final deregistration. You will have to reinstate before they will release it for you. Service providers may stop doing business with you because you actually do not exist, and creditors may refuse to pay you, the business itself. Okay. So those are the consequences of deregistrations. So the next thing is now, how do you do it? So one thing that you need to understand, and I know it seems like there's a lot of information that has to be complied with. And yes, if you go line item by line item, there's a lot of information that needs to be filed with CIPC. But what we try to do is to make compliance as easy as possible. Sometimes it may be done a little bit easier, but we try our best in order to do that. We also try to merge a lot of the information. So for you as the small business owner, and I'm not talking here about the intermediaries, we call them intermediaries. That is those companies and firms and businesses that offer others assistance with CIPC services. So they need to use the e-services. So this video is specifically for you who wants to comply and want to get your business back on the road, how to do it on the easiest platform that we have. So I'm going to show you the presentation or the video. It's going to repeat some of the information that I've already given, and then we'll continue with the last phase of this presentation.
Attention all entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, tenderpreneurs, hustlers, movers and shakers. Do you own a registered business that is dormant, not actively trading, or perhaps operational, but has not filed its annual returns for more than 2 consecutive years? If you do, then your company is likely going to be deregistered soon. To avoid deregistration, file your annual returns by going to www.beesportal.gov.za. Log in using your 13-digit ID number and password. Select Services. Then select Annual Return Filing. Select the company for which you want to pay the annual returns, then navigate to the next page. You will then need to state your turnover for each of the outstanding years. If your company has been dormant or inactive, your turnover will be 0 for each of the years. If, however, you have been trading, you will need to state the total sales or revenue for each of the outstanding years. You should then click or tap on the Calculate button. Verify that the amounts you entered are correct, then click or tap on the Continue button. Then select the FAS option, complete all the fields in the form, then click or tap on the Continue button. You then need to answer 5 simple questions about the operational details of your company, then click or tap on the Continue button. Bees Portal makes use of card payments only, so you do not need to deposit funds into CIPC's bank account. This means no queues and no additional waiting time for funds to reflect in your customer code. After capturing your operational details, click on the Add to Cart button. Then click on Pay Now, tick the Terms and Conditions box, accept the terms and conditions, and capture your bank card details to complete the payment process. You can also file your annual returns on CIPC's eServices channel at www.eservices.cipc.co.za. If you prefer some hand-holding and human interaction, locate any of our walk-in centers closest to you. Our friendly and capable staff will guide you through the process using the self-service terminals. Attention all entrepreneurs, solopreneurs.
Okay. All right, so that's a new video that we have just finished making. It will be published as separate within the next couple of days. We just want to fine tune it. So I hope that video actually gives a clear indication or understanding that actually how easy it can be to file and to comply with your annual returns. So let's quickly run through how to file. Again, filing options, it's only available electronically. There's no manual filings on annual returns. Biz Portal, as I stated, it's the quickest. Those are for you as the business owners that want to do it yourself. E-services for the intermediaries. Unfortunately, intermediaries cannot use the Biz Portal. We'll get to that now a little bit later. And then the self-service centers are only for South African citizens. Right. Just a few incidental matters on the Biz Portal that you have to take note of from our experience. For example, if you log in and on the dashboard, you see that your client's company or closed corporation does not reflect on the Biz Portal, then it would not reflect. And this is the reason why. So on the Biz Portal is designed specifically for the business owner that wants to do his own affairs. So an intermediary can't see that, because when you log in onto the Biz Portal with your customer code and password, or your ID number and your passport, ID number and your password, what then happens is the system will then go extract and list all the companies and closed corporation for which that person whom's logging in is an active director or member. Your intermediary is not an active director and therefore will not appear, and therefore they need to use e-services. Then also, for example, you are under the impression that you are an active director of this company or closed corporation. It does not reflect. Please check your own records and then do a BIS check on the BIS profile to check whether you reflect as an active director or member. It may have been that you have resigned, or there was a change to the directorship. Then just check it there. If it's still not correct, please log a ticket for us to go and confirm via an inquiry system. My previous filings does not exist, as stated. Filing of information plus payment equals compliance. So we do experience on a regular basis that people either send us a deposit slip and think that's the annual returns are paid, or they're trying to file but never complete on the payment side of it. So if it does not reflect, check your own records. And if it has not been filed, it doesn't reflect as filed, it means that you have not filed it. So then please file. The other thing that has to be noted in that regard is during our enhanced e-services launch in January, we ran on two databases, and they were not always properly synced. So we've done a lot of exercise to sync the two databases and all the information, but there may be one or two where the data was not properly imported. So please log a ticket for assistance, and then they will investigate and extract and populate the information into the other database. It doesn't happen that often. I think in the last 2 or 3 months, we have not come across came across from a client that is still happening. My apologies, my tongue is a little bit knotty. All right, so the filing confirmation. So you've not received your filing confirmation. Please check your spam or junk mail filters in your email address. These filing confirmations are only emailed. Check with your internet service provider that the CIPC emails are not blocked. My apologies for the grammatical error there. I'll fix it now. Check that your email address on your customer profile is correct. If any of these things are not, please rectify it and then reprint the certificate. If all else fails, please log a ticket on the CIPC inquiry system for investigation and possible re-extraction of the certificate. We also get matters that I filed the wrong turnover. This is especially on our e-services. So for that, you need to log a fault for the annual return unit with evidence as to what the true turnover is. The annual return team will then prepare it, and then we'll prepare the necessary documentation to go off to our finance department to process the credit and debit note. It is scary how much we have noticed in the last couple of months, how many clients actually submit the wrong turnovers. It is critical. Make double sure that you provide the right turnover on the systems when asked for. Then another challenge that was experienced, people could not file or pass the FAS component, and because it gave an ID validation error. We have in the meantime delinked that from Home Affairs. So in the past, what happened is when you type an ID number on the FAS component before the annual return, and DHA was down because their systems are overloaded, we couldn't do a confirmation with them, and therefore you got the ID validation error. That has been delinked about last week, and we're not really picking up any challenges anymore in that regard. Then another matter that we get, especially on the e-services, not on the BIS portal, is that clients are complaining that they cannot file because their client has not completed the AFS. So AFS is the big document whereby your financial records are prepared, it is audited, etc. The regulations makes actually specifically mention for that is that you can use the previous year's financial statements or financial information for that filing. You don't have to wait for the current year to be finalized. If you have got any questions on the AFS or FAS, you can log a ticket under the financial statements component of our online inquiry system. Then just some general information to remember: correct contact details, correct contact details, correct contact details. As the CIPC, we can only contact companies, closed corporations, directors, and the members if we have the correct contact details. So if you're not sure, if you, for example, are not getting the AR reminder, that's a key to know that we don't have your right detail. Then please go and check. Go check your own records that you have filed, and if in doubt, you can file a Core 39. Unfortunately, you cannot check on the BIS profile or enterprise search functionality as to what email and contact details we have. Contact details of directors and members are regarded as private information, and therefore it's not publicly disclosed. Even very few staff members in CIPC actually has got access to that information. So please check your own records as what you have filed with the CIPC and then update. Then the next question is, how do I stay in the know about compliance, annual returns, and the CIPC? Please follow us on any of our social media platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We post on a daily basis updates of information of what's going on, reminders how to do things. We advertise webinars, training courses on IP. All of those things are published on those social media platforms. Also refer to the CIPC website regularly. Check your company or closed corporation status regularly. You can do that on the BIS portal as well. Do our online directed training course. It's free of charge. It's easy. It is actually, I think it's very cute. I did it as well. It will run through the information in a very easy, understandable way. You've got little quizzes in between, and you can actually have, at the end of each module, you have a bigger test, and you can get your overall score. And it will tell you everything as a director, how to manage your affairs, what does the law say about your duties as a director, what do you need to do with the CIPC, all of those things. Then also keep your company or closed corporation information easily accessible. Those documents will be your welcome letter. Every company that's registered gets a welcoming letter that tells you the high-level compliance matters. It has your registration certificate. Keep all your filing confirmation and the content that you've submitted to CIPC. Keep your financial records up to date, your minutes of your meetings and share registers all handy and accessible. Just quick, the Learn IBIS that we've just spoken about. And then what is CIPC currently busy with? Why all of a sudden all this communication on annual returns? Now we do as CIPC, because we've got many, many functions, we also have intellectual property, trademarks, patents, designs, co-ops. We've got a lot of other functions and pieces of legislation that we administer. So we all share our online space. So currently what's happening is we have, in the last couple of years, we have been struggling to effectively finally deregister companies and closed corporation due to legislative content requirements, as well as the process itself. Now, we have also picked up in the last couple of months that there's a spike in non-compliance. And there may be many, many reasons why a lot of companies and businesses out there is non-compliant. It may be that never knew of the requirement. It may be the hostile business environment that businesses find themselves in. We just have to open up News 24, read the boards on our way to work. The economy is really, really struggling. Load shedding, state capture, infrastructure failing, flooding, riots. It is currently a very difficult environment, and and we also have to understand that businesses are interlinked. If one or two businesses suffer, then their community and the people and the business that uses their services also are impacted. So currently what we are doing is we are on a drive to finally deregister quite a number of companies and closed corporations that are non-compliant. As I stated, we need to keep an up-to-date register. Also, what has been found is that if we have a lot of dormant companies and closed corporations on the registry, it creates fertile ground for those businesses to be used unsuspectedly by the true directors and owners, by other people to commit fraud, money laundering, and terror financing. So having such a large number of companies and in deregistration poses a risk to our business community. So currently we are issuing the legal notices. It's called a 40.3. It will be issued over the weekends of the next coming weekends. We've started this weekend. So we suspect that the first legal notice will take about 4 to 5 weekends to issue. Then if by mid-November, end November, if these companies and closed corporations still have not complied with annual returns, we are going to finally deregister them, right? So then they will be taken off the line, will be finally deregistered. Just remember as well that upon final deregistration, you can apply for reinstatement, provided that you can prove that there was economic value. So do you have a contract in place? Do you have a bank account? Is your bank account active? So just complying with annual returns is just the first step. You need to make sure that you are up to date with all of your business affairs. Then a key thing, and this is also for the intermediaries that's on this platform, is card payments. Why card payments? Those that have been dealing with the CIPC for many, many moons would know that the primary method up until recently has been what we call the declining balance. That is where you make a deposit into the CIPC bank account with a very specific reference relating to your customer code, and that gets then allocated to your customer code. Then as you submit things to the CIPC, that fees are deducted off that balance. Now, CIPC has made a strategic decision that is going to phase out the declining balance. Now, we've been trying to phase it out for the last 3 to 4 years. We are now making a strategic decision to enforce it. So basically what's going to happen is that all new service, not the current one. So let's say, for example, we automate a new service, and that service has got a fee assigned to it. Then we will only allow card payments to go onto that service. Let's say, for example, we rebuild an existing service on a platform that uses declining balance. We will then migrate that service for card payments only. We have issued 2 notices in this regard, and the reasons for the strategic decision is basically sit out there. We get audit findings because we hold these large amounts of deposits. The Auditor General thinking that we are acting like a bank and therefore we have to be registered. And so we cannot keep retaining that huge amount of money. Literally hundreds of thousands of rands are deposited in customer codes that are not being used. We also want to improve the customer service and the turnaround times. It is faster to do a card payment than trying to go make a deposit, waiting for its allocation, and then access the service fees. But there's some other reasons as well out there. If you want, you can just refer to those notices that has been published. All right, just in general, just because your company or closed corporation is deregistered, it does not absolve you from the liabilities of that company or CC. Even if you are finally deregistered, the company or CC is finally deregistered, you can still be held liable for the debt and responsibilities and liabilities which occurred during your office period with that company. So just bear that in mind. And that's why compliance is so critical as well during the lifespan or during your office period as a director or a member. After you've been finally deregistered, you can apply for reinstatement provided that there was economic value at the time of deregistration. So that is my presentation about annual returns. I hope you found it insightful, found it interesting that how easy it actually is to file. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Krista. We are now responding to questions, once again, related to today's webinar. Okay, the first question we have on screen is from Marissa Kruger. I watched a webinar a while ago, and the lady from CIPC said, we can deregister an entity even when the annual returns are not submitted up to date. Can anyone please confirm this? Krista, can you confirm this?
Yes, I can. So because of the past deficiencies in or the delay it took to finally dereg while in annual returns, as from last year, we allowed companies and closed corporation to get the deregistration done quicker. We allowed them on the voluntary deregistration process to also ask that the process be converted from annual returns to voluntary. So hopefully with this bulk deregistration, we are going to clean up the registry. And by the end of this financial year, it's on the cards to rebuild the ARD registration process. So the aim is that we get ARD registration from end to end, the issuing of the notices, the waiting periods, into a period of 4 to 5 months instead of the years that we are currently experiencing.
Okay, thank you for that. Kutsu wants to know, can a business be deregistered if it's struggling to start or pick up?
Yes, it can. It is your choice whether you want, once you've registered, to keep your business active or not, even though it's not conducting business, but you have to comply. So, Kutsu, just for something for interest, in South Africa, we've got something called survivalist registration. As South Africans, we tend to register businesses in the hope of getting an economic opportunity, not because we have one. So ideally, it is a personal choice, but we would prefer that if you don't use your business, deregister. You can always re-register or register a new business once you actually have got your opportunity. Currently, we're processing on our electronic platforms new companies with name reservations in 24 hours. You can have a new business up and running in less than 24 hours with the CIPC. So there's no reason to hang on to finally deregistered or dormant companies or CCs when there's an efficiency and complying while you're doing it, when it's actually so easy to register a new one.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, the next question is from Marissa again. Please, can you confirm if you can apply for deregistrations if annual returns are outstanding? I think we have answered that question.
This was my first answer. You can still do that.
Okay. Next question. I believe this is different from the SARS annual returns.
All right. Namvula, thank you very much for that. I've been dealing with annual returns for 16 years. That's how long my lifespan at CIPC has been. And this always comes up. So this is different. SARS is the collector of tax revenue for the state in order for distribution to the different government departments that require funding to run their services. Annual returns for companies and CCs is a renewal fee to keep you registered on the company's registry. So there's a total difference between a SARS tax return and a CIPC annual returns. SARS uses our data. They are not the creators of corporate legal entities or the maintenance thereof, so they rely on our information to determine whether businesses are inactive or active.
Thanks. Next question. What can I do to file my returns after the due dates?
All right. So if you are late, so let's say today is your start date of filing for your annual returns, and oops, I forgot. Please note, I've also got a company and I haven't filed my annual returns yet. I usually use it for testing purposes. So I've not filed my annual return in January, right? I'm still active. Next year, if I still don't file in January or February at my due period, the system will then automatically pick it up, put it in ARD registration. I can still comply with filing annual returns after that date. As long you can keep filing your annual returns up until the point the company or closed corporation is finally deregistered and removed off the registry. So you've got a long period to comply. The only difference is if you are late, you'll pay the penalty up until final deregistration.
Okay, thanks, Krista. Yes, just a comment. I'm aware of what CIPC says. I, however, watched a CIPC webinar on deregistration, and they said we can apply even if the status says annual returns deregistered processed.
Yes, Marissa, even if the status is ARD registration process, you can still apply for voluntary deregistration. The only difference is that on the voluntary deregistration letter, you need to specifically ask that we move the status from ARD registration to voluntary in order to complete the voluntary process.
Thanks, Krista. If there's a correct order or preferred workflow to lodge annual returns, IXBRL submissions, compliance checklist, and the BO declaration. So is there a correct order?
All right, so what the system does, how we designed the annual return system and the integrated system is if you want to try to file the annual return, your XBRL submission, your AFS or FAS must be up to date. You can then comply with your compliance checklist afterwards and your BO for now afterwards or before. Eventually, BO will probably be linked up with annual returns, but not for now. So what you also can do is if you want to file your XBRL or AFS, you can do it also via the standalone. And like 2 days later or 3 days later or 4 days later, not laters, but apologies for that, then go file your annual return. But the system will probably prompt you to say there's something outstanding before you get to the annual return.
Okay, I think we have answered that question. Is it possible to pay and file annual returns after deregistration because not filing?
Okay, so I assume you're referring to final deregistration. So once you're finally deregistered, your legal entity, your vehicle, is basically off the road. It's not even parked. They're busy dismantling it. So in law, if you do not exist, how can you do something? So once the entity is finally deregistered, we don't allow the filing of annual returns. The law requires that you need to apply for reinstatement. And then once you submitted your reinstatement application and that was successful, the system will open up for you to file all your outstanding annual returns.
Great. Now, this is the $1 million question. How long does it take for a company to be deregistered?
It will depend on the company itself. So for example, I know that we have been struggling and we're trying, as for this financial year, we are trying to speed up how quickly we do deregistrations. Just remember that, as I said, we put into deregistration 30 to 40,000 companies and CCs in a month. That's a huge volume. So it takes some time, unfortunately. We have now built the system in such a way that we are going to email out the notification to speed it up, then working through the post office with registered mail. So we are hoping that this will now happen quicker. And then we're also going to put some further enhancements into the system in order to run this on a monthly basis automatically, the whole process. So we do realize there are companies that has been in deregistration for donkey years. I have picked up, for example, a company that's been in deregistration for a couple of years, but then you have to look at its history. It was registered, it became non-compliant, it got finally deregistered, it applied for reinstatement, it filed the annual return, became non-compliant again. went into ARD registration, filed their annual returns, went into business, became non-compliant with annual returns again, placed into ARD registration, got into final, then reapply for reinstatement, filed the annual returns. So all of these things do play a role. And also what we're trying to do is, because of the legal impact, when we do a final deregistration run, sometimes the bank, the lawyers, especially when there's matters before court, and such, ask us to pend a deregistration, a final deregistration, and then we do that. But we do not allow, our arrangement with those stakeholders are that we will no longer keep, if the company is longer than 3 years in the deregistration, we're going to finally deregister regardless of where it is with other organizations. That's the long sing-song of it.
Thank you for that information. Sipa wants to know, how do I deregister companies, and how do I register a name and merge it with an existing company's registration name number?
All right, so you do a name reservation and then you apply for a company or CC name change once the name has been approved. Then the name is changed. But remember, you cannot do a name change for a company or CC that is finally deregistered.
Yes. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Sipo. The next question. My turnover is 0 and I'm failing to continue after calculating, where I have to choose between AFS and F. From there, I cannot continue to the next step. Please assist.
All right, you unfortunately will have to log a ticket with a screenshot of where you are on the steps in order to actually calculate. Please provide the company and CC name and number as well, because it may be that this entity is not allowed to file an FAS but are forcing an AFS, or you may be experiencing some breakages in the application. So, but unfortunately, you will have to log a ticket for it to be looked at.
Right. All these questions need to be logged on our QRS system on the CIPC. The turnaround time is very, very quick and efficient. So please, guys, do a screenshot and log your queries on our QRS. Now a question from Kyle. What are the legal implications on a director of a not paying annual returns and allowing an entity to go into final deregistration on purpose if the company is not required any longer?
All right, so when the company is no longer required, so Carl, I think the first question is, when the company is no longer required, right? You can wait for the ARD registration process to finish up the final deregistration, but make sure your company has got no assets and no liabilities, no outstanding debt, right? Make sure that it's an empty shell that's being deregistered. The legal implications, or where the directors can be held personally liable post-final deregistration, is when there's outstanding liabilities and responsibilities that has not been completed. I hope that answers your question, Carl.
I'm sure it is. He's welcome to comment again on our screen if he has any further questions. Our next question will be, will we still receive a confirmation from CIPC if we do not voluntarily deregister, as SARS requires confirmation from CIPC before we can deregister with SARS?
All right, so the voluntary deregistration system is unfortunately it's a legacy system, and we don't post final deregistrations from that system. If it's a voluntary deregistration and it's finally deregistered, please log a ticket for a staff member to extract that letter for you. On the annual returns, we are now issuing it via email. So once it's an annual return deregistration and we finally deregistered, we will email the notifications out as well over a period of time. But unfortunately, for voluntary deregistration, you need to currently still log a ticket for that to be extracted for you. Our apologies for that.
Okay. Sherry Cock, her question is, does CIPC communicate with SARS when a voluntary deregistration is submitted, or do we have to submit the notice to SARS after the 4 months?
SARS gets notified of every single change on the CIPC system. So yes, they do get the in data format. Unfortunately, there's still some of their branches that requires the actual notice to be generated for them. It's something that we keep taking up with them, but it has not quite been resolved for them to update all the internal processes to rely on the data that we've provided.
Okay. Next question. Does a dormant company need to pay the 100 Rand every year, or is there a way to just inform CIPC that a company is dormant and not pay the 100 Rand?
Right. The Companies Act does not make provision for dormant or active companies. There's no such division. You pay for a fee to comply. So whether you're dormant or not, you still have to pay the fees associated with it. We maintain a big database. We are upgrading our services. We need to have databases and backup and firewalls and specialists to run all this data. And unfortunately, those infrastructure comes at a cost. So therefore, even though you're dormant, you still have to pay the minimum fee.
Thank you, Krista. Next question. Why don't you allow late submission on the compliance checklist?
Okay. Unfortunately, the compliance checklist does not fall under the company's unit. Please log a ticket for the compliance unit that's responsible for the compliance checklist to answer that. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. My apologies for that.
Okay, our next question is. Just 1 second. I see the Tabang gave me a question on trademarks. Please, Tabang, please log a query on the CIPC website regarding that trademark registration question that you have. Okay. Is there any other questions that you need? I seem to have answered all the questions that I have asked all the questions that's on my comment section. We do have time left. If there's any other questions, can you please log your questions so that Krista can answer them? Renee, when an annual return is filed late, the compliance checklist system is not allowing us to complete the question. Is there a way to provide the CIPC with answers to the checklist questions?
Unfortunately, as I stated, that is a question that needs to be asked to the enforcement unit who administered the compliance checklist.
Okay, Rowan has a question. I have a question, please, and I'm struggling with this for a while now. Sorry, it's a little off subject, but need some help, please. I have a company with a very similar name, and I've just want to add SA at the end of the company name for the second name. I have submitted a special name reservation, but not getting feedback at all. How must I do that then?
All right, you will have to log a ticket for the name reservation unit. They will have to go check the information as to the status of the name reservation. Then the name reservation unit is probably one of the units that answers their query tickets the fastest. So please log it from there, and then they will provide you with an answer of how to get it done. You must also be cognizant of the fact that it may not be allowed. And because if you add SA or any word to an existing name, it changes how the name looks and structure. And when we do a search, we may get more hits as to possible confusingly similar names. So it's not guaranteed, but please log a ticket for the name reservation team. They will assist you from there. Thank you.
Okay. Guys, remember when you log a ticket, you get a ticket number. This is confirmation that your ticket has been logged. Okay, I see we have another question here. Please take us through the step-by-step process of deregistering a company voluntarily.
All right, the client prepares the documentation as per the requirements on the website, the letter, a tax clearance certificate or any document from SARS to confirm there's no outstanding liabilities. There's a few other items that's needed. You email it to deregistrations@CIPC. Please make sure it's a single email with all attachments in PDF or TIFF. Otherwise, the system cannot pick it up for indexing. It then gets indexed. It gets queued, then indexed, then it's examined and captured. Once that happens, if that is captured before the 15th or the 16th of every month, then on the 15th, the 16th, we will prepare what we call the B-list letters, which the staff then posts out to the directors, workmen's compensation and such. Please note, we post about 10,000 letters a month just on the voluntary. If we don't get an objection, we then finally deregister in a period of 4 months, maximum of 4 months. Then we effect a status change. Unfortunately, as I pointed out to the previous question, unfortunately, I didn't write down the customer's name. My apologies for that. You can check on the BIS portal, on the BIS profile. As soon as it's final, you can log a ticket to ask for the final deregistration letter. Voluntary deregistration takes about approximately 4 months. It does happen that sometimes it gets skipped through the process, but please just log a ticket and the team will then look at it and then see where it got stuck in the process. It's an old system that we handheld and is highly data sensitive, and then they will final deregister if the period should have passed already. Thank you.
Okay, a question from Colin. Can we use both the BIS portal and the CIPC website to transact, or should we do everything on BIS portal?
All right, Colin, if you are a businessman and you want to do your things yourself, then the BIS portal is your easiest platform to use. It's designed slightly different than e-services, so you are quicker in and out, and it's in and out. But not all the services are available on the BIS portal, and then you can utilize the services that's on e-services. We do have a strategy to merge the services that we have got the same services on platform, but unfortunately, we have not reached that yet.
Okay, Joshua wants to know, I don't know how to do returns. Please assist.
Okay. Joshua, if you are the business owner, the video, once we've released this, we're going to release the video as well. You can actually use the video then as a reference on how to file via the BIS portal. Otherwise, you can just go to BIS portal, www.bisportal.gov.za. You log in with your ID number and your code, your password. You click then on services. The dashboard will display. You select the entity for which you want to file, and then you follow the steps. But you can refer to the video after this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, Santi wants to know how long it takes to correct a spelling error. Please elaborate a bit on that question, Santi van der Merwe. The next question I have for you, Krista, is, can you please tell me about unlimited certificates on CIPC and how do I register a customer?
All right. Shiri, unfortunately, I don't know what you're referring to as unlimited certificate, so I can't clarify that. But how to register a customer, you can go to any of our portals, you click on register, and then you follow the prompts.
Okay, the next question is, Shofa said that we didn't answer his question, but I do remember that this question has been answered. But let me just That's about the correct order or preferred workflow. Shafa, we have answered this question. Um, Please, maybe you can go back and listen to the webinar, and then you will hear Krista's answer to this question. Okay, is there any other questions that we have that you would regarding annual returns that you would like clarity on? I have noted that all our questions have been answered. I see there's a question regarding future webinars on beneficial ownership registers. Yes, we will have more webinars, but please look at our website to see the dates for these webinars.
This is the scheduled date at this point in time. I think we're interested in
Thank you, Elma, for that. Let's see Colin's question. I work for a group of companies and have been submitting the annual returns via the FAS option. Is this the correct way to do this? When would you need to use the other option?
All right, Colin. So that becomes a little bit tricky. So it will depend on what type of company it is. If it's a public, a state-owned company, or the MOI of the company requires it to be audited, then you have to use the XBRL, the AFS component. If you are a private company with no MOI AFS requirement in the MOI, then you will have to look at the PI score of the company at the time of filing to determine whether you need to use the AFS or FAS component. On our website, Colin, there is a decision tree of how to navigate these options, of which one to choose the correct one. Just look for iXBRL. Otherwise, you can log a ticket. Choose the category or department as companies and CCs, and then the category as iXBRL ticket logging. They can assist and advise you on the detail of the split, depending on all these factors that are applicable.
Okay, I see there's no more questions. Thank you so much, Krista, for this very, very informative webinar. We have now come to the end of this webinar. As there's no further questions that you all have, we hope you found today's webinar of value and that it will assist you. Thank you for joining our webinar. Good day.